This is every type of WWE fan explained, starting with the most common one, the casual. These are the people who tune in for WrestleMania, Royal Rumble, SummerSlam, maybe Survivor Series if they're feeling spicy. They'll read the results on the internet. They know who Roman Reigns is. They know John Cena. They probably think Undertaker still wrestles every week. They got jobs, they got lives, they got real responsibilities. They're not spending 3 hours every Monday watching Raw. They'll catch the highlights on YouTube, see the viral moments on Twitter, and call it a day. They know the big names. They might own one wrestling shirt from 2015, but that's about it. They're just normal people who casually enjoy wrestling without making it their entire personality. Unfortunately or fortunately, 70% of wrestling fans are casual. But if you're actually invested in this thing like me, then you're definitely one of these following archetypes, starting with the WWE loyalist. These people are absolutely locked in. Every Monday they're watching Raw, every Friday they're watching SmackDown. Heck, they're even watching every episode of NXT to get one glimpse of Oba Femi. For premium live events, they got Peacock pulled up before the kickoff show even starts. Triple H could book a 3-hour episode of wrestlers just staring at each other, and these guys would find a way to defend it. They know every storyline, every plot thread, every callback from 6 years ago that nobody else remembers. They're in the live threads on Reddit. They're tweeting during commercial breaks. They're buying the shirts, the action figures, the commemorative chairs. WWE is their religion, and Triple H is their prophet. They'll watch a mid-episode of Main Event just because it has the WWE logo on it, and honestly, props to them for the dedication, but there's a whole other breed of fan who wouldn't be caught dead watching WWE. The indie nerd will watch AEW, NJPW, GCW, ROH, some obscure British promotion with 12 people in the crowd, but WWE, nah, that's trash. You'll find them saying things like, WWE is for casuals, bro. They don't even wrestle. It's just sports entertainment. They got strong opinions about work rate, they know every wrestler's indie name, and they definitely own at least one Bullet Club shirt from 2016. They treat WWE like it's beneath them, like watching it would somehow compromise their integrity as a wrestling fan. But here's the thing, they're still talking about WWE, constantly. They'll spend hours on Twitter explaining why WWE sucks, why their booking is terrible, why Triple H is ruining wrestling, because deep down, WWE lives rent-free in their heads. And you know who's the natural enemy of the indie nerd? The E-drone. The E-drone only watches WWE. That's it. AEW, Outlaw Mud Show. New Japan, can't understand it. GCW, backyard garbage. If it doesn't have the WWE logo on it, it might as well not exist. They're in the trenches every single day on Twitter, battling it out with indie nerds in the most pointless debates about ratings and buy rates you've ever seen. It's like watching two bald guys fight over a comb. E-drones will defend every WWE decision like their life depends on it. Bad booking? You just don't get the long-term storytelling, bro. Boring match? Not every match needs to be a spot fest, bro. They've convinced themselves that WWE is the only real wrestling company and everything else is just cosplay. And God forbid you criticize anything. They'll write you a 15-tweet thread about why you're wrong. The funny part is that they're just as obsessed with other promotions as the indie nerds, except they're obsessed with hating them. But you know who doesn't care about any of this wrestling shit? The Stan. These people don't give a single F about the actual wrestling. They're not watching for 5-star matches or compelling storylines. Nah, they're here for one reason and one reason only, to thirst. Liv Morgan, Rhea Ripley, Roman Reigns. Pick your poison. Their Twitter feed is just screenshots, edits, and unhinged comments like, I would let Rhea Ripley break every bone in my body. Liv Morgan could sit on my face and I'd say thank you. They'll watch a whole 3-hour Raw just to see their favorite wrestler for 8 minutes. They don't know what a Canadian destroyer is, they can't name 5 wrestling holds, and they definitely don't care. Wrestling is just background noise for their parasocial relationship. They got the Instagram notifications on, they're in the replies of every post, and they're fighting other stans in the comments about who's hotter. It's honestly kind of impressive how little they care about the actual product. But as weird as the stans are, there's a much darker version of this fan. The creeps are the ones that make everyone uncomfortable and give wrestling fans a bad rep. The stan was weird, but manageable. But the creep is a legit problem. These guys are showing up at airports at 3 a.m. with a suitcase full of action figures for wrestlers to sign. They're at every hotel, every restaurant, every public appearance. They know way too much about wrestlers' personal lives, like scary amounts of information. They know where they live, what cars they drive, where their kids go to school, and they think this is normal behavior. They'll show up to signings without showering, wearing the same unwashed WWE shirt they've had since 2009, reeking like a GameStop dumpster. And the worst part? They don't think they're doing anything wrong. They're just supporting their favorites, according to them. Nah, bro, you're being a menace to society. You can be any type of wrestling fan, but just don't be this guy, please. There's one sentence you'll often hear the nostalgic say, and this is, wrestling was better in my day. These guys watched during the Attitude Era, maybe the Ruthless Aggression Era, and they've never let it go. Stone Cold, The Rock, DX, The Undertaker. That was real wrestling. Everything now is just trash. You'll hear them say things like, back in my day, wrestlers had personality. Now everyone's just a generic NPC. They'll pop up occasionally, watch 15 minutes of Raw, then turn it off in disgust. The thing is, they want to like wrestling again. They're not fully gone. They're just waiting for that magical moment when it feels like 1998 again. But hey, at least they watched wrestling at some point. Unlike some fans who are only here for the violence, the deathmatch lover doesn't care about wrestling. They only care about carnage. Light tubes, barbed wire, thumbtacks, glass, fire. The more violent, the better. They're watching GCW Tournament of Survival, CZW, and whatever insane deathmatch promotion is running shows in a warehouse somewhere. Regular wrestling bores them to tears. They'll sit through a 30-minute deathmatch that's basically two guys slowly killing each other for $50 and a hot dog, and they'll call it peak wrestling. But who cares about work rate when you can watch someone get thrown into barbed wire, right? They're the wrestling equivalent of people who only watch NASCAR for the crashes. And the wildest part is that they're out here defending this stuff like it's high art. But on the complete opposite end of this spectrum, we have the purist. The purist is all about pure technical ability, chain wrestling, mat work, and submissions. They're watching 1990s All Japan, Bret Hart versus Owen Hart, and Bryan Danielson classics. If there's not at least 3 different arm drag variations in the first 5 minutes, they're not interested. They'll watch a 30-minute match that's just 2 guys doing holds and reversals, and they'll be more entertained than if you showed them the wildest spot fest ever. They hate high spots, they hate blood, they definitely hate anything sports entertainment. But they're also kind of insufferable about it. They're the wrestling equivalent of film bros who only watch black and white movies with subtitles. These guys don't just watch wrestling, they're preparing for it. They're in the gym 6 days a week, doing the workouts, eating chicken and rice, building that wrestler physique. They got notebooks full of match analyses. They're watching Bret Hart versus Shawn Michaels frame by frame, studying every counter, every transition, every psychology trick. They're watching shoot interviews, listening to podcasts, learning the business inside and out. They respect the craft, they respect the business, and they're actually putting in the work. But there's one type of fan who thinks they could book wrestling better without ever stepping in a ring. The fantasy bookers got Google Docs, they got spreadsheets, they got full year-long storylines planned out for every wrestler on the roster. They're out here writing entire WrestleMania cards, planning feuds, creating championships, doing things that Triple H gets paid millions to do but still sucks at. But hey, every wrestling fan needs a creative outlet, I guess. And speaking of fantasy booking, make sure to check out some of the dope fantasy booking videos on WrestleMafia next.